Hello, everyone. Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review of X-Men 19. We are finally here. Battle with the Brood. Things are kicking off. But let's take a look at the creative team before we get into that. So, Lord of the Brood, Part 1, written by Gerry Duggan, with art by Stefano Caselli, Federico Blee on colors, Clayton Cowles on letters. Wow. I have been waiting for this one for a little while since it was announced. I think the Brood are some of the most exciting villains that the X-Men can have, just because you never know how strong they're really gonna get as a hive. They've also been causing some trouble for Captain Marvel over at that book. I'm not currently reading that, but I will go back and check it out. I don't think it's a crossover itself, but I do know that they're both kind of facing off against the Brood at the moment. And for those that don't know, the Brood is just like this intergalactic hive of beings that are, for the most part, usually really violent and destructive. So in this issue, when the X-Men get a distress call from deep space, they find that the galaxy's Brood problem is not as solved as they thought it would be. Rogue Brood factions have begun running wild, as seen in Captain Marvel. And it's up to the X-Men to get to the bottom of why. So yeah, at the end of the last issue, we saw a distress call from none other than Cyclops' dad. So we are on the way to do that. But as always, Gerry Duggan and the team, they're always kind of like, pardon the pun, planting the stories for like something else. So there's always a couple things happening in this book. From the beginning of this book, we've had a few stories that sometimes one story will take the main stage while other things get kind of thrown in the background that you really have to be paying attention on. And that's kind of where we are with this opening preview art. So here we see some of the X-Men. They're trying to travel to nowhere, that is now in this black hole. But of course, that's never going to stop Forge from trying, which I love the outfits. I love the detail. And I just love how the contrast, and you'll see in the next couple of pages, the color difference to differentiate the two stories, everything that's happening, and to kind of set the tone, which is really ironic, I think, because the more brightly lit story ends up being, so you see the transition. This is still the Forge story, and then as we move on to the Brood stuff, the Brood story ends up being the one that's a little bit more lively lit, which is interesting because it's more of the horror story, I would say, in the book. But yeah, I love what the team is doing. I think Sync has really come into his own as a character. We also have Laura Kinney that was rescued from the vault, as opposed to the other Laura Kinney. They're still running around as Wolverine. And yeah, their powers have really developed. We know that Sync has a limitation that he can pull powers that he's used before, but if they're not within arm's reach, that will cause him to age, as they've discovered in the vault, which is really problematic. If with the resurrection protocols, probably not as much, but then I think he would lose some of the power that he's gained just from being in the vault for all that time. Anyways, yeah, this book continues to rule. One of my things that are at the top of the list when I pick up comic books on Wednesday has been this X-Men run ever since Gerry Duggan took over. He's just writing so much cool stuff. Go see Invincible Wireman if you don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this issue down in the comments. Let me know if you're reading the Captain Marvel run with the Brood. Like if it's worth for me to go check that out. I think that'd be cool. And yeah, stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here on the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.
We'll be right back.